And so this is the real Wargamer, back at the gaming table. This is another gaming session, completely unrehearsed, unstructured. Is what it is. So this is exactly what I'm doing right now. Again, so so the Army, U.S. Army. So the U.S. Army, oh my, it's not even on the map. Okay, so the U.S. Army has conducted studies. Boy, these glossy counters are no good. I don't know how we went with them. Okay. The Army has conducted studies in the past, large, landmark studies of rotary wing aircraft and airborne, heliborne operations, studies of future combat vehicles, studies of organization, and beyond, to many more. Well, actually, if you really open the aperture, the Army studied a lot of different things for R&D, space capabilities, robotics, cyberspace. Okay, so the Army has conducted these studies in the past, and the Army will continue to do so in the future. Okay. And in the vein of combat vehicle studies, brings me back to kind of an overriding thing I'm looking for. The overriding thing that I'm looking for, and what I'm looking for is a game, a tabletop game that has simulation, credibility, a credible simulation that is flexible and open-ended, that allows you to experiment with many different capabilities, organizations, qualities, force qualities, allows you to do that, fairly quickly, and fairly easily. I mean, quickness is so that you can get a lot of simulation. I'm doing nothing to adjust that picture because the picture isn't important here, but quick is to get many different iterations of the simulation, and easy is just so that you can focus on adding and subtracting the different factors, capabilities, qualities, etc. MBT might be a foundation. Well, it's an option. That's all I can say. MBT is an option. I just hope it's not too armor-centric. Raid, of course, is an option, and these, of course, are firefight pieces. So I have firefight pieces on the raid map. Raid might be a way to go. and I might. I'm just talking about this right now, and I'll get to why I'm talking about it right now. There's a very, very specific reason for this. But I'm showing the raid map because I mean, maybe I will go with that. Maybe I will put some raid forces, put some raid forces on the map and have them both, in the game terms of raid, make them both the most elite special forces in the game. Not to simulate special forces against special forces per se, but to make them near future combat forces. I think within game terms, that's special forces against special force. If I remember correctly, raid kind of sets up the special forces versus plain, very regular, kind of a almost third world or certainly second world military forces. But maybe it would be interesting to play raid, make both sides special forces as a model, as a simulation for near future. Obviously, it would be adding a heavy dose of vehicles, armored vehicles, for a Baltic or Caucasus scenario. Well, primarily Baltic. Maybe Caucasus would be even different. Maybe that would be heavy airborne operations focus. So the raid map is absolutely stand-in. This is not at all what I envision. I envision I envision something closer to some of the best advanced Tobruk system maps. That's what I envision right now. Again, pieces. I need combat vehicles, which raid has, and I would like to show that. Show how raid, the game, might be able to handle rudimentary, not rudimentary, but I mean, if the rules can I don't know about that. I'll see about that. I'll see about that. Okay, so why do this? So I'm not going to pull out a lot more pieces, okay, but it's to explore questions like this. Obviously fairly basic questions, but also very interesting questions that would be fun to simulate. So there is a threat. Let's say armored fighting vehicle platoon, and maybe in the game you can break it up and not even talk in terms of platoon. But let's just start with a platoon. Let's say we have an enemy or threat, armored fighting vehicle platoon out here, and here we have our near future U.S. Army armored fighting vehicle formation platoon. So the experimentation, experimentation, sure. The experimentation using simulation that I'm getting to is, what do you need? It's always, of course, we know it's always scenario specific. Okay, so terrain and et cetera. But given a lot of different experimentation with different configurations of setting and conditions, well, I guess conditions, including terrain, what does the Blue 4 What does the friendly armored fighting vehicle platoon need to win at a certain level, to at least a certain level, against a projected enemy armored fighting vehicle platoon? And, well, not and, but looking at autonomous systems, robotics, cyberspace capabilities, electronic warfare capabilities, as well as doctrine, leadership training, etc. But the idea is by simulating, might gain some insight into how, like this platoon, again, I'm not going to pull out more pieces, but if this platoon is made up of 2 manned vehicles with 2 autonomous wingman vehicles, what would that look like? Even in game terms, how would they, would they operate exactly the same? And if they did, what sort of capabilities are entailed there? Then we get to the infantry. So here we have, so here's a discussion that I'll say is timely. I'll just put it that way. It's timely. The Bradley here. Let's imagine first that it's a Bradley. And here we can talk about the individual vehicle, but obviously, well, actually, we're going to get to the platoon. We'll start with the individual vehicle. This is just for discussion. Now, if we have a squad packed in the back of that Bradley, and you only have, again, let's open this up, and you have 3, so you have 3 Bradleys, and each has a squad packed in the back, and that's really packing. Going up against, a comparable threat formation. Basically, one Bradley gets hit and is immediately destroyed. 1/3 of the platoon, 1/3 of the mounted section of the platoon, of course, is gone, but also 1/3 of your dismounted infantry force is gone pretty much in an instant. Is that the way to go? What if we had, and then again, experiment. What if you had a 1 fire team loaded onto the back of some future infantry fighting vehicle, and then you had 6 vehicle platoon, and let's say, what if 2 of those 6 are autonomous vehicles? Maybe. Then what would that mean? Could you operate 3 mounted sections of 2 vehicles each? You have a team in each, so a squad is in 2 vehicles, but that also means that when that squad, for example, dismounts, it has kind of dedicated to it 2 future infantry fighting vehicles. I know I'm kind of drifting back and forth between Bradley and future infantry fighting vehicle, but I am mainly talking about future infantry fighting vehicle, but starting with thinking about the Bradley. And again, what is needed for survivability? What kind of firepower etc., etc. Is that future infantry fighting vehicle? What kind of armor is it? How fast is it? How maneuverable is it? Does it have a turret at all? If it has a turret, is it manned or unmanned? Again, I'm nice to have a simulation, a tabletop hex encounter. That's simple to get going. Counters on a map that you could do all this stuff in a credible way. In a credible way. And maybe, you can simulate and you say, given a next generation armored fighting vehicle, given a next generation infantry fighting vehicle, and given a certain infantry organization, not even to get to all the others, artillery, engineers, MI, okay, but just starting here, how much fighting power, combat power, do different organizations, different formations have? And how capable are they? And then if you simulate, let's just say you simulate the limits, again, given the setting, you simulate the very limits. I'm talking about limits of weight, limits of ammunition. I'm talking about all those limits. If you hit the limits, and this again is your simulated foe here, simulated enemy, then if you hit the physical limits, what do you need in the soft factors? What do you need the training edge to be against your enemy? What do you need the leadership edge to be against your enemy? And then you can talk about against a force, 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, maybe. But yeah, I still don't know of a game. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know of a game that's set in the near future. I'm sure that we have war games set in the near future. I'm not aware that they have any really meaningful, again, simulation credibility. I mean, I guess one option is to go back to a legacy design that has, it has established credibility. Again, I go back to Assault, the Assault series. That's a good example. But also MBT. Go back to a legacy design that has kind of established credibility and use it as a base. That's kind of a way to. That's one option. I don't say that's the only option. That certainly is a option. It's actually not a. I mean, it's a attractive option. It is an attractive option. I guess I'll just say before I wrap up this for now that what is the soft design, what is the soft layer, the software, figuratively speaking, that I'm laying over the nuts and bolts here. Nuts and bolts meaning whatever map I choose, whatever pieces I choose, whatever dice I choose. Now I'll talk about the design software just real quickly. What am I thinking there? Basically, I already said it's got to be flexible and open-ended and has to have simulation credibility. And so I am talking about, well, it probably will be table heavy, chart heavy. It will be formula based, which just means that I can generate a lot of working numbers in an automated way, but it's formula based. So this was very evident to me in a recent discussion with an armor expert. So we were talking about future armor warfare, really, and we were going over a lot of examples from the Cold War, but looking back, it was easy. It's easier for me. I had a bit of a I was struck. Let's just say I was really, really struck by the idea that, because in the back of my mind as we were talking, I did manage to do a little bit of mental review about how what we were talking about would be or could be translated into game terms, but that just again made me realize how much I was struck by the idea that once you put in a bunch of X factors, well, it's problematic. It's problematic for a number of different reasons. So, an anti-tank guided missile into the back of your main battle tank at close range, you're dead. I mean, it's over. It doesn't matter. If the tank is surprised, if the crew never even notices the dismounted anti-tank team, all those X factors don't matter. It's pure physics. So basically, now you can manipulate the soft factors, can't manipulate the hard factors in contact. Now that's not a good way to put it. You can work with the soft factors in a deliberate way. Not the hard factors. Okay. Yeah. So again, this all comes back to, and I'm not saying why don't we have the game. I know one of the big reasons why we don't have this game is it's not a commercially viable idea. But that just begs the question, would Assault be a commercially viable idea today? And if the Assault series would not be a commercially viable idea today, what does that say? But I'll leave that for another time.